last time we inserted the same Photoshop file with two different layer comps into two different layers within the same Illustrator file. So the layer comps are showing up here. If it has the name missing, then it means that the Photoshop layer comp have been updated. So we want to click on the file and then click on the relink icon here, and then click on Photoshop file again. Make sure the link option and show info option is checked, and this is where we can choose the right layer comp and click on OK. So all the information will show up again right here. Now we can update the other one as well by clicking on the relink option and then choose the Photoshop file and make sure the layer comp is correct. So whenever you see the file name missing, that means the Photoshop or layer comp got adjusted and you will need to update it. So now let's save this file as diagram_layer. Click on OK. We want to make sure that the include link files options checked so that Photoshop file will be imported into InDesign along with Illustrator. And then we want to check the create PDF compatible file option because when we place our Illustrator file into InDesign, it's actually the PDF file that is now created along with the Illustrator file that gets inserted. So let's click OK. Now let's create a new Illustrator file just so we can experiment with a different workflow. This time around, we're going to use two for the artboard. So we're going to use two artboards to differentiate two layer comps. Before, we only have one artboard and we use two different layers to differentiate layer comps. Let's just type in diagram_artboard. And if you have a slow computer, I suggest using RGB color. And in that case, you only need 72 ppi. That's going to make your computer run faster. If you're thinking about printing in high resolution later on, then I suggest keeping a CMYK color and 300 ppi. Now let's click Create. Now we see two artboards created. Ultimately, when we place the Illustrator file into InDesign, the artboards are going to be referred to as pages in InDesign. So let's go to Place, and we'll select the same Photoshop file. Make sure you check the Show Info options and link. And then we can choose one of the layer comps and click OK and just snap the files. Snap the corners. Now let's go to Place again. Choose the same Photoshop file. And now switch to the other layer comp. And we're going to snap the corners again. Okay, so now let's save it. We're going to save it as diagram_artboard. Click OK. Make sure you have include link files checked and create PDF compatible file checked. Click OK. Now we're going to go to InDesign. You can see how I placed the Illustrator file in InDesign already. So let me just delete them and start over. We go to Place, and we're going to try the diagram_layer first. You can see how under the Layers tab, we can toggle different layers on and off to show different layer comps. Right here, we want to show Keep Layer Visibility Overrides because we're going to be adding layers and information in InDesign, and we want that to show up. If you want to keep the layer visibility in the original Illustrator file, then you're going to use the PDF's layer visibility. PDF here refers to Illustrator, basically. And now we can click OK. And then just drop it. It fits perfectly because we set up the Illustrator document to be 11:17. Now let's try a different workflow. If we place and use the diagram underscore artboard, you can see how under layers, there's only one layer for you to choose from. However, we can choose the page we want. We can choose page 1 or 2. So the pages are actually artboards in Illustrator. Let's just click on the white one and then we'll drop it here. So now we can kind of visually assess whether the white background is better than the dark background. The white looks pretty good right now in juxtaposition with the rendering. The dark one, we don't know yet until we can kind of tweak this blue color to be more in sync with the colors in the rendering. So this is when the color libraries come in handy. Remember, we created this in Photoshop and then it's accessible through the Creative Cloud. If you don't have this panel up yet, you can go to Window and make sure your Creative Cloud libraries is turned on. So it looks like the regenerated watercolor swatch is going to really help coordinate the dark background with the rendering. So in order to change this dark background, we want to click on it and then go to this Edit Original. And you can see how it now brings us back to Illustrator. But the thing is that we actually want to change it in Photoshop. So what we want to do is to go here and then we click on Edit Original in order to go back to Photoshop. So now we're back in Photoshop. The color libraries here as well. Again, you can bring it up through Window and Libraries. Make sure it's checked. And then when we double click on the color swatch that we want and click OK, you can see how the foreground color swatch got changed to it. And we can navigate and click on the layer that has the background color. And then we just hold down Shift key and press F5. It's going to allow you to choose the foreground color or background color or other colors for the background. So let's choose the foreground color, which is the regenerated water blue. And we click on OK. So now we change the background color, and then that makes sort of the foreground color looks a little bit out of place. So we might want to now just check to see if there's a much better layer comp. So we can kind of see how this looks pretty good right here. So we can basically update the dark background layer comp. We want to go to Window and then go to Layer Comps. So the dark background layer comp is the one that we want to update. So we can just right click and go to Update Layer Comp. And then when it's good to go, we can click on Save. Now we can go back here and it's asking us, okay, files are missing or files have been modified. Would you like to update them now? So it's referring to that Photoshop file we were messing around with. So you can click on OK. You can see how the colors got changed right here. And actually, we want to make sure that we actually have the right layer state or layer comp right here. So we want to click on the relink because somehow they both got changed. We only want the dark background one. So let's change this one to the white background and click on OK. All right, so now we have both of them updated, and then let's just click on Save. So now if we go back to our InDesign file, you can see how it's telling us that, oh, this diagram underscore layer Illustrator file got changed. So again, we can click on it and go to the relink icon, and then we're going to choose the right Illustrator file. If it says underscore layer, then we'll choose the layer one and click on that one, and then we just click on OK. Actually, we want to have the dark background here. I just click on OK. All right, so now it looks a lot more fitting. However, we might want to, well, actually, I think it's okay. The other file is showing a white background. So this is when you can kind of make a decision on whether you want to keep the white background or you want to pursue the dark background. Maybe you want to go back and change the watercolor here to be more like what's on this white background page. All right, so I hope this is helpful as far as helping you set up your files in Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, and to be able to kind of start out with your end outcome in mind and go back and tweak the different components in Photoshop and Illustrator. So I'm going to go over how we add curves and lines and labels to complete the diagrams in Illustrator in our future videos. See you there.